a great partnership between the Mets and Citibank, and I've done a number of these for the Mets and the bank, and it's really happy to be here. Queens is in this area is kind of like old home for me. I miss those days when I was playing for the Mets back in the 60s and 70s, but actually lived not far from this branch when I first came to New York, and it just brings back a lot of memories. I enjoy meeting and talking to people and who maybe weren't even around when I played, but know about that team, and that especially that team that won the World Series. So for me to go out and meet people and do whatever I can for the Mets and Citibank is really a good opportunity for me, and I really enjoy it.
Now talk about that legacy of that team, that '69 team. I mean, how special was that for you to be a part of that?
I'm still in this area because of it. It was an incredible team. I've always said that the 1969 Mets might not have been the greatest team in terms of ability to win a World Series, but they're probably right up there as the most incredible. A team that was known as the lovable losers for so many years, to turn it around when no one had expectations for this team to do anything. And it turned out it was a year where the Jets won the Super Bowl and nobody expected them to win that, and of course we won and nobody expected us to win, and then the Knicks won in May of '70. All three teams winning in their championships, and nobody had ever won before. People tend to forget that. So it was a year of tremendous greatness for sports in the professional sports in New York City. It was not a great time for the city, the country, and the world with so many bad things going on. But the team will always have a legacy because the history of that team has been passed on from generation to generation. Children who weren't even born know about that team. They know the names of the players on that team, and they've gotten that from their parents and their grandparents. And I've always I meet so many people who say to me, "Yeah, I was there when you guys won the World Series," and over the years it must have been 150,000 people told me there. The ballpark only held 51 or 52,000, but so many people thought they or said they were there. But it's a great for me because no matter what you did in your career, for all of us who were part of that team, no matter what you did, you will always be known as a member of that 1969 Met team that lives on forever in terms of how popular we were and what we did for the community and what we did for the Met organization. And I still have great memories from that year and great friends. We've lost 7 members of that team, unfortunately, but the remaining guys I'm still very close to, and we'll always have this wonderful bond of having done something that most people thought was incomprehensible early in the season, but we beat a terrific Baltimore Oriole team in the World Series, and the legacy I think will live on forever.
Now talk about, you guys at that point in time were replacing the Dodgers and the Giants. So what was that like, helping New York now have a National League team again?
Well, for those of people who don't know, when the Dodgers and the Giants left in the late 50s, New York was left without a National League team, and in '62 baseball expanded and the Mets were developed. Ironically, the Mets took, for those who might not know, they took one color from the Dodgers, the blue, and one color from the Giants, the orange, and that's how they originally got their blue and orange. It was, I think, having played against the Mets because I was with another team before I got traded over here, I knew that there was so much excitement with fans, even though the team was not very good. And even in the beginning, when they were known for being the lovable losers from 1962 all the way to 1969, fans still came out. There was this cult that was developing between the fans and the team, and you saw that when you played against them. And I think it was just something special. I think there was a lot of National League fans who were disappointed when both the Giants and the Dodgers left. So it was an opportunity to get back into it, and the Mets, no matter how they played on the field, fans appreciated that there was another team there from the National League, and I think that just developed into the Met fanatics that we call them now, and the history of the team is such that they've always had great fans. And going back to when they were developed, and Mrs. Payson owned the team, and M. Donald Grant, and I think the culture changed for that team in 1968 when Gil Hodges became the manager. And the laughingstock of baseball, as many people say, the Mets were kind of changed. That culture changed when Gil took over. and he was a very, very down-to-earth, good, strong individual who really turned the tide for the Mets, and I really believe if he would have not passed away at such a young age, they would have gone on and won more World Championships.
Now talk about your legacy. I mean, you seem to have your own, you've had pop culture, had a dog named after you and Everybody Loves Raymond. So just talk about your legacy and your place in Mets history.
I'm smart enough to know that whatever legacy I have was really because of being part of that wonderful team. I think the real beauty of that team is that when you talk about it, it's not just about Tom Seaver and Jerry Koosman and Cleon Jones and Tommy Agee. It's about Al Weiss and Kenny Boswell and Jerry Grody and Bud Harrelson and all the rest of the guys who are part of that team. So my legacy is just having been part of that. Yes, I was lucky enough, if you want to call it, to have two dogs named after me. Jon Stewart named his dog after me on Comedy Central, and then, of course, I was on the show Everyone Loves Raymond because they named the dog after me, and they took a few of us on, and it was a wonderful experience to be part of that. But to have dogs named after you, I guess they mean something special. But it's interesting. I get some basic questions when I go out now. One, because I came up with the Cincinnati Reds, should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame? Two, don't you wish you were playing now, making the money that they're making? And three, how does it feel to have a dog named after you? And so I always correct people and say it was more than one, it was two dogs. But everyone Everyone Loves Raymond is really the one everybody kind of associates with me. And I think it's great. I'm still in New York because of having been part of that team, and I've tried to do what I could to help that legacy, not personal legacy, but that team's legacy, remain what it is and very special to people. And I get an opportunity to do things like this today with Citibank and possibly their customers and new customers, but it offers me a chance to just say hello to them and let them ask questions about things that they might want to know about that team. And I get a lot of the same questions, but what about the black cat that ran on the field? What about Tom Seaver's almost perfect game? What about the Swoboda catch? What about the Tommy Agee catches? What about that time you did this? What about time you did that? And I never get tired of answering that because it's part of my life now, and for me it's a great feeling to be part of the team, and I wear this World Series ring with much pride, because in reality there was only 31 of them, and to be part of that club, that team that won the first Met World Championship, to me is very, very special. And I hope, I know all the rest of the guys on that team feel the same way. So just to get back to your question about my legacy, I think really boils down to having been part of that team. And I've just kind of tried to do things over the years that kind of maintain my visibility here in the New York metropolitan area. And I think it's very special for me to have been part of that wonderful 1969 championship team.
I heard it took you a little while to get used to the New York area. Do you remember the exact moment that you said to yourself, hey, this place isn't so bad after all?
Well, it's funny. It's great. You're pretty well informed. I got traded here by the Cincinnati Reds, and it was the first time I got traded. And when I came over in 1968, that was the first year for Gil Hodges and myself, Tommy Agee, a couple other guys joined the team. And for me to come from the Cincinnati Reds team, it was a pretty good team. We hadn't won any championships, but it was a very, very good team. And come to New York, first of all, I looked at the Mets as not being a real good team, and then New York was so big and so kind of, the word wasn't scary, it was just it was too big for me. And when I got here, I was a little overwhelmed. I enjoyed it, but never really kind of took advantage of it till when the season was over. And I said, you know what, I'm going to stay with my family. I'm going to move into the city and rented an apartment in Manhattan. And once I got there, I took advantage of being a New Yorker at the time. I mean, I fell in love with the city, the culture, what New York City represented in terms of what it offered to people who took advantage of things there. And once that happened, once I felt that this is where I want to live, my whole outlook on the city changed, and I've been here ever since. We're talking a lot of years too, but it was a little transformation period for me. But I will say this about when I came over here, I fell in love with the fans here because they were so were so good to me, and when I say that, I mean I think they appreciated the fact that you gave an effort and you tried, and even though the Mets were not a good team in 1968, we turned it around, and of course in 1969. But I think I really kind of fell in love with the fans from the beginning, and then from then on I've been a New Yorker. One of the things I take pride on in my career, and unfortunately I got hurt, and it was hard for me to put up the numbers that I would have liked to in the end. I had some really good years and not so good years, and I believe the not so good years were when I was hurt. And you have to stay healthy. There's no secret to the game of baseball. A lot of it is having some ability, but a lot of it's being in the right place at the right time and staying healthy. And I always tell youngsters who have any ambition to get to the next level in baseball is that you got to take care of yourself and give it your best effort. You never know who's watching, but also stay healthy if you can. And so when you talk about clutch hitting, I always felt that one of the things that I prided myself when I was not striking out much, making contact, and I always loved that confrontation between the hitter, in this case myself, and that pitcher, particularly in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. There is nothing like that in sports, I don't believe. I mean, you can compare it to other things, I guess, but when that pitcher's got the ball and the game's on the line and you're facing him and you know, he's whatever distance he's away, 60 feet 6 inches, well, it's not really 60 feet 6 inches, because once he lets go of the ball, and I don't want to get too technical, but once he lets go of that ball, he's much closer than 60 feet 6 inches. So it's you against him. He's going to throw you a pitch. It's going to be one of 4 or 5, you know, and you're going to have to determine whether you're going to swing, not swing, it's ball, it's high, it's outside, whatever it is. But that confrontation, to me, between you and that pitcher, there is nothing like it in sports. And I cherish those moments because it made me bear down more. And I don't know if I was much different than anybody else. I think the fact that I didn't strike out much and I made contact gave me an opportunity to put the ball in play. So in that respect, I'm proud of that, being able to do it, and I thank you for saying that. But I think being known as somebody that was going to put the ball in play and maybe be a clutch hitter, I think is really a nice thing. Thank you for saying that.
No problem. One last question. Have you been able to follow this most recent team, this 2012 team?
Yeah, I do follow them. I still love the game. The game, to me, though, is much slower than when I played. It seems like every at-bat is 10 minutes, so I lose patience sometimes watching the games. I'll turn on for an at-bat, a half an inning, but I think it's, and that's just my opinion, it's still the best game in the world. It's just a little slower than I remember when I played. We got in and hit, and but it seems like everything takes forever now. But I have been following this team, and I think they're real streaky. I think part of that is that they're basically young, and what they need to do, and they will do it, is they'll need to learn how to win close games instead of losing those close games. And that's really what happened to us in 1969. We learned how to win a 3-2 game. We learned how to win 2-1, and we learned how to salvage a game, and if a team had beaten us 2 in a row, and we wouldn't lose that 3rd game in the series. So we learned how to win that game. Of course, we had really terrific pitching and really great defense. And this team, they've got some good pitching. Santana and Dickey is having a great year, but they need to learn some things. And when I say learn, it's not opening up a book and learning. It's learning about practical application on the field. And once they do that, like now, all the sports now, if they can just edge their way up into the playoffs, make the playoffs. It used to be where if teams made the playoffs, their chances of winning were not going to be good because the stronger teams were always going to beat them. And now you look at all the sports, and it could be football, it could be basketball, and it could be hockey, you know, and baseball in particular. Like the Cardinals last year, they were a playoff team and they won the World Series. So and a playoff, I mean, they didn't win a division. So I think if they can learn to win some close games, and they can get the clutch hit now and then, anything can happen. So I think that fans should be excited about this team.